The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well,
I hate this new way of doing business. I hate this non-automated system.
hello, and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's the Friday before Christmas, and all through the house.
Yeah, not a creature was stirring, just everyone else.
That's right.
And every moron in Fall River's got to be on the streets. And I'll tell you now, they don't care. They'll run you down. I went into a local business last night, trying to see if I could find something, anything, just a little, catch thing, And there was wailing, gnashing of teeth, beating of heads, clothes being ripped off of racks, and it wasn't Walmart. I've never seen such hate and discontent in my life over one item left here or there. It was kind of like the Cabbage Patch craze all over again, or this year's Hatchimal craze.
Well, that's human nature. I love it when everybody says, "Oh, be jolly, be this, be that." Then they shoot each other over parking spots and kill each other over sales. I mean, it's happened over everything. Whether it was the antifreeze shortage or then they're going to be in the auto parts store choking each other over gallons of antifreeze and stuff, and that's unfortunately, as I said many times, that's why it's said that man is the only animal that can blush and the only one that needs to. Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, was very accurate when he made that statement. So
I hear some jingle bells.
Oh yeah.
I wonder why. Hold on a second. I got to change costumes.
Oh look, it's an elf.
And I understand that you're Santa Claus.
Not me. I'm not Santa Claus.
I understand that you're Santa Claus. The exorbitant rumor mill said that you were so nice to Terry Sullivan during the retirement board meeting, which conveniently was not video broadcast at all. I wonder how come that was conveniently done. But I won't get into that right now. It's Christmas.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, look, I'm always as nice as I can possibly be and professional. I was elected by the members of the retirement system to represent them, and I was at that meeting to ensure that, but in addition to representing each individual in that system, I also have a fiduciary responsibility to the system to keep it solvent, to ensure that money isn't misspent, or that we get the money on time, because, we hear a lot of complaints about the impact of the retirement system, and the city always conveniently forgets that it's their fault for underfunding it and paying late, that the system is where it is, because, in 2002, the system was 80% funded, and now it's in the 40s, and we're beginning to rise again. We've just signed, we entered into a new program where it's going to be fully funded again if the city pays on time. But, I know there's a lot of, I don't know what the expectations were, and as we say on this show many, many times, it's nothing personal, it's professional. I don't know why they thought I was going to give him a hard time. I'm actually his advocate. He's part of the system. But I had questions. When I received the packet, which is here, and I examined the contract language for the years Mr. Sullivan was trying to buy back, I saw a clause in the contract that said that he had the option to either be in the retirement system or opt not to be in the retirement system and get an additional 8% to pay for his retirement, to buy an IRA, fundamentally. You get a personal retirement. which basically means he was making like 16% more than everybody else because he wasn't paying 8% into the retirement system, and he also opted out. Our attorney provided us with a lot of court cases and precedents as to how you determine whether someone is eligible, even if the city, as usual, Fall River or some city, doesn't give them status as a retirement eligible employee. They use them as a 1099 employee. So I was a little concerned, and I was very pleased to see Mr. Sullivan at the meeting. So, you know, I basically asked him before the meeting. I said, listen, I said, you know, I talked to him about the clause, and I said, did you voluntarily opt out? He said, well, no. I said, did you try to get into the system? He said, yeah, numerous times, and they wouldn't let me in the system. And I said, but you did take the 8%, correct? He said, yeah, I did get the 8%. So then it got to, I said, well, we're going to call you up, and we're going to have you say this for the record, because I don't want anybody saying that he got preferential treatment or he didn't get, you know, we were trying to, you know, I wanted it on the record that so we could fix whose problem it was. Now, the wheres and the whereofs is, but so he came up to the table, and I asked him on the record, did you, yeah, and I read the section, and then I said, did you attempt to get into the system? He said, yes, I did, and they wouldn't let me in. They had me remain as a 1099 employee. Well, then our attorney, Michael Sacco, who's one of the best attorneys in the state, as I said, he represents, I think, over 100 retirement boards, and he's one of the premier guys. His entire practice, since he's been in practice, has only been retirement law, public sector retirement law. Then, you know, I asked Attorney Sacco, I said, well, you know, if, you know, there's a clause here that he volunteered out, the city didn't allow him to. He said, well, and then he told me something that kind of made me laugh, because I kind of knew that probably was his. He said, well, the language that the city put in there was illegal. He said the city can't.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
He said, you
Wow.
know, if they were going to classify him as a 1099 employee, he couldn't be in a retirement system, and that clause was unenforceable, and only the board can do this, and they would have said he had to become a W-2, which at the end of that time period, when we got a new mayor, Mayor Mitchell, that's exactly what they did to put him into a paying member of the retirement system. They changed him over to a W-2 employee. So I wasn't being, you know, I was doing my job. And I always do my job with due diligence, and I researched it, and I wanted to establish some things, and I did. You know, we established that, you know, under the definitions of the precedents, Terry Sullivan deserved to be classified as a W-2 employee, and he wasn't. We established that he made requests, and they would not make him a W-2 employee, and we established that contract, he really didn't have an option, so therefore he was entitled to the time. And that's what I'm there for, to ensure that that every member gets everything they're entitled to. And I also had to clarify the point, because I didn't want somebody to come back later on and say, hey, wait a minute. He had the option to go into the retirement system, and he didn't. So if I choose not to be in a retirement system for the first 10 years I'm on the job, then want to buy into it 20 years later, you know, and he is paying, and the law's been changed, and he has to pay the interest, fundamentally, that we would have gotten in the system had he been in the system. So, you know, I mean, people like to make, you know, much to do about nothing. It was, I was doing my job, you know, and ensuring that the individual concerned, regardless of his name or any personal feelings, was going to get every single thing he was entitled to, that it was 100% legal, that our attorney said that part of the contract was totally irrelevant, because, as usual, the city entered into an illegal contract with him for 7 years. And just as, you know, not too many months ago, on a retirement board meeting that was taped, we saw Mary Sahadi attempting to tell the retirement board to enter into an illegal contract And our attorney had to point out that we couldn't enter into a contract with someone who is going to audit the retirement system when it wasn't our audit. It was an audit for that particular unit, whether it was Housing Authority or Diamond or whatever, who's in our system, that contract had to be between the two people who were involved, the company that's doing the audit and the individuals for whom the audit was for. So, you know, this city has a history of doing things and circumventing the law. That doesn't happen for the average worker. I want to make that perfectly clear. That does not happen for the average worker, because when we negotiate a contract, we are held to the letter of the law. It's statutorily, the way we bargain is statutory. 150E, the collective bargaining law. When we go in there, our attorney checks everything for legality, every line, every phrase. Something like that could not be in a collective bargaining agreement with regular workers. However, when it comes to administrators and appointees, this is not the first time there's been some things that, as a union rep, I complained. Many years ago, when we got that $2 million that was lost and put in the city account when it was ours, and they had to give us 3 free months of Blue Cross and then an $18 reduction for the rest of the year. The person in charge of that was former Personnel Director Sharon Skeels. And in her contract, and I actually brought this up to councilors, in her contract she had an automatic 5% cost of living raise and a 5% outstanding performance bonus compounded into that new base if she was found to have performed outstandingly. And guess what?
She was always outstanding.
Guess what? The year that she testified under oath, she screwed up, lost the money, cost the city $2 million in payback money for health care. She got an outstanding performance bonus.
See, because she was outstanding.
You know, when we talk about taxpayer waste and taxpayer, you know, and wasting money not only on contracts and paying real estate people to do nothing, this is very prevalent when we see these carpetbaggers coming in and getting contracts. You have to look at their contract. Problem is, the city council apparently doesn't read them very closely, because this has happened time and time again. So, you know,
well,
Merry Christmas, Terry. And it wasn't anything more than me doing my job. And and I'm going to say it on the air. We found at that meeting, you are totally entitled to that thing. You know, the city screwed up. Now, whether the city's going to recoup the 8% that they gave you for an IRA, that's up to the city. The retirement board is being made whole. You are getting that time back. You are paying for that time like you would have if you were in the system, and you're 100%, you know, you were 100% legal, because our attorney said the case law clearly states that you should have been a W-2 employee. So and
that,
so
and the fact that
everybody in City Hall who thought I was wearing this hat at the retirement board was wrong. I was doing my job.
That's it. And, you know, let's add insult to injury, because in 1998, the city council passed Ordinance 74, okay, which gave employees from that same time frame who worked full-time status. So I guess they kind of knew that they screwed up.
Yeah, it's kind of a de facto admission that the city screwed up.
Right, and
or they did it they could have done it intentionally.
That's true. It could have been intentional. So I'm still waiting for the city to provide me with who the city councilors were who sponsored that legislation and the vote that passed it, because I want to see who the carpetbagger kiss asses were, because it's going to be interesting to find out whose bag they were in, because I'm telling you now, this is making me sick. And at Christmas time, I do not need to be sick.
Be careful. Don't get them too upset. You might get your finger cut off.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Segue.
Yes, on Thursday, Donna Sylvia, 51 of Fall River, former owner of Columbia Towing in Fall River, was sentenced to 8 to 10 years. Now, her co-defendant was sentenced to 10 to 15, and there are still 2 co-defendants remaining. This was classified as a barbaric case, and as soon as the sentence was issued, I received notification on it, and it, of course, went out everywhere. I've known Miss, full disclosure, I've known Miss Sylvia for many, many years. We grew up together, we were in school together, and we had our own trials and tribulations as teenagers. I found this very disheartening that, number one, she was accused, and then now she's been found guilty. It is an 8 to 10 year sentence with 2 years of probation following, plus a $5,000 fine. And the probation is 2 years supervised. And, you know, earlier today, I was here listening to our state delegation taping their show for the new year, and they were talking about cutting sentences down in the prison system because it costs $60,000 a year to house a prisoner, and some people are in there for no reason at all.
So that's their position, that we unilaterally cut sentences for reduced sentences.
I'm not sure if
to allow perpetrators of, and I am quoting from this case represents a premeditated and barbaric act of violence that is simply not acceptable in a civilized society. So what do they want to do? Turn her loose after 6 months so she can cut somebody else's fingers off?
Well, I don't,
you know, I mean, you know, these legislators, you know, they won't pass strict laws and against drunk driving because they're afraid somebody they know will get caught for drunk driving. You know, how many 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, you know, seven-time offenders have been caught and have killed someone or maimed someone, and there they are back in front of the judge, and they say, this is not the first time, this is the 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th time they've been driving. You know, in Japan, they'd get life if they did that. You know, I mean, I think your first conviction in Japan is like a 10-year loss of license and some jail time, and if you drive again and get caught, you get life in prison. But there are not a lot of drunk drivers. So, and that's the problem. You know, nothing irritates me more than they make an excuse. It costs too much. How about the cost in human suffering to the people who these animals perpetrate their violence on? They steal people's possessions. They injure people. But no, let's make it, because there are some people that are in there for nothing at all. Well, you know something? If they're in there for nothing at all, talk to the judges and talk to the DAs. Obviously, they had a case. Obviously, they received due process. Obviously, they were put in jail and sentenced. You know something? You guys spent too much time sitting on your butts in Boston and eating bagels. They took all the bagels, by the way, CJ. I can't even have a bagels. Okay.
Oh, God, you're funny. Oh, this kills me. Well, you know, and here's the thing.
It's Christmas.
We're going to talk about state cuts right now. So Governor Baker decided to cut money out of the tourism budget. Not like it's benefited Fall River at all, although Rob Mellion keeps saying that it does. They have one full-time employee, and Baker cut $7.6 million 2 weeks ago from the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism, including the $3 million that remained in the Tourism Trust Fund, which was slated to go to regional tourism offices. I find it amazing. So we're worried about that, but we're not worried about a lot of other important issues.
Yeah, you're
we're worried about a tourism office, because tourism, for every dollar spent on tourism, we get 7. Well, it seems like for every dollar Fall River spends on tourism, we lose 10. So, you know,
true. And you know, it's really funny. It's really funny because again, we show how the perspective of the people who have, you know, let's face it, they have a vested interest.
Right.
They're politicians or people like Mellion who will basically, and you know, the headline, state cuts could have a chilling effect. That's nice. That's very nice verbiage, but you know, a chilling effect on local tourism. Well, number one, I don't see millions of people wandering up and down South Main Street watching the derelicts and watching the people that are waiting to go to court. because we don't have a hell of a lot of tourism here. And you know something? You know, you can disagree with me all you want, but if you have a business that depends on tourism, well, you know something? You should, you know,
You should be in Hyannis.
you should have the state. You shouldn't have the state hyping your business. Hype your own business.
Yeah.
Have the people, have the local businessmen, instead of getting, you know, throw in some money and try to look. I don't know if any of you have been to Las Vegas, but if you go to Las Vegas and you fly into McCarran Airport, on your way to the baggage claim, all you see is pamphlets and advertisements and stuff for every restaurant, every show, everything there. Marketing. They're marketing their shows. Every hotel's got pamphlets. You go down to the Cape, every hotel has got a whole pack of pamphlets on the walls.
Right.
For everything that's available in an area, whether it's whale watching tours or cheese factories or whatever. You know something? You know, your people complain about welfare, but the businesses want to have welfare. They want to come to Fall River, pay no taxes. They want the state to market the city for them, and they want them to do everything. And who takes it on the chin? The taxpayer. You know, hey, little tiny Rhode Island. Let's take a little look over little tiny Rhode Island, because now in the past few months we've seen Governor Raimondo say, hey, they're not getting a dime until we see jobs. They're not getting a dime until we see them invest money. And they're paying taxes. $150 million thing. And it's happened more than once in Rhode Island.
Yeah,
they're mandating that, you know, and I know we heard 1,800 jobs at Amazon, and it's, you know, it's like saying like there's 55 new jobs at Macy's. Yeah, it's for Christmas.
Right. But don't forget, Amazon sends out sex toys instead of wood-burning kits as gifts. That was a recent complaint from a local resident that he sent out for 2 wood-burning kits for his children or nieces or something, and had he just given the boxes to them, they would have been for a big surprise.
I got a really inappropriate joke I could tell right now, but I'm not going to.
Oh, and by the way, on the cuts, there's a decrease, a 3% decrease in scratch ticket sales. And guess what that equates to? Local aid cuts from the state. So I wonder how the city's going to start planning for that, because you can estimate a 3% cut, and you're looking at this, hello.
Yeah. Well, you're right. And you know something, CJ? Our state delegation, rather than whining about the sentencing and whining about things like a chilling effect in tourism cut, well, we should mark it. Why don't they go up there and talk about this? We're getting a 3% cut in local aid. But why haven't they all these years been complaining about the fact that Fall River gets a disproportionate share of the lottery?
I know.
Fall River and New Bedford are the two largest consumers of the lottery, and as all poor communities are. Everybody, the only way they're ever going to get rich is if they hit the lottery.
Right.
So, I mean, if you look at scratch ticket sales, you look at everything, yeah, but now if you look at proportionally, I'm not saying dollar. I mean, we might get more dollars than Newton or Wellesley, but if you look at money spent on a lottery versus what they get back, we get one of the lowest percentages in the state. Why isn't our state delegation up there trying to say, hey, we should cut the lottery up based on usage? If you buy 12% of the lottery proceeds, you should get 12% of the local aid from that proceed, correct?
Yeah, why not?
Well, that would make sense. But then again, you know what they'd have to do? They'd have to walk up to the Speaker of the House, who's from one of these rich little towns
that gets a disproportionate
amount, and they go, Mr. Speaker, and he'd say, shut up, or I'm going to give you coal and stick your office in the basement.
That's right.
So they only complain about stuff that they can get, you know, they can get through and have the Speaker say, okay, you can complain about that.
Yep.
Because why, for years, since its inception, has Fall River gotten screwed with their share of the lottery proceeds?
I know. Well, we know that the election year is coming up rapidly, because the mayor has now entered into contracts with not only EMS but also AFSCME. Yeah, that is coming up before the City Council on Tuesday. So, but this EMS contract is interesting because he wants to merge in EMS to the fire department. And you and I have spoken about this numerous times in the past. And, you know, while I agree it may be a beneficial situation to the department because it provides more people and more staff who are cross-trained, I think that you're going to have a major civil service and a major 150E situation come up where contracts are going to have to be renegotiated, things are going to have to be changed, who's going to get seniority, who isn't, and what happens to those people who are not on the list that are current paramedics.
Well, they're gonna look. Hopefully, the firefighters union will. You know, there is we attempted to bring EMS into the fire service when I was the president because the city didn't want to do it at the time because they don't want to get rid of all the people who have got administrative positions in
the political
EMS.
whores?
Yeah, the people who have got, because technically when you make it fire-based EMS, you don't need a director of emergency medical services because the hierarchy of the fire department, because those people are firefighters first. They're firefighter EMTs, firefighter paramedics, but they're firefighters first. And there is a special list for that, like in the Cape. They can hire regular firefighters, they can firefighter paramedic. The problem with reinstituting fire-based EMS in this city is there'll be too many political, all those people in administration in EMS, if they're paramedics, they should be offered a position as a firefighter, if they can get through the training, if they can pass the test for firefighter. And yeah, that's fine. But they should no longer be high-paid administrators. They're just a firefighter, paramedic, who will get a stipend for being a paramedic. And in Providence, they don't have a separate. They have people. You know, it's like they have a lieutenant on every ambulance. Providence has had fire-based EMS for years, and you know the reason that they brought EMS back into the fire service was to get more firefighters, but then you had the dual capability. They're going to do EMS, but then if you need them in a multiple alarm and they're off duty, they are firefighter trained. So it's a more effective use of personnel. But the problem is, as cities always do, as they did with the chief's aides, even though there's thousands of pages of proof that chief's aides are a smart investment and they actually enhance a fireground operation, it'll tell you right in every one of those studies. Every city and town that eliminated chief's aides did it because they just didn't want to pay the money, even though it's a more efficient use. And the reason that fire-based EMS will be not everything it's cracked up to be is I will make a bold prediction. All those administrative positions will stay, and they'll probably even get a pay raise. So is it going to cost the city less? No. The reason you bring EMS back in is to actually reduce overall costs.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our show. I want to wish all our viewers a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holiday season. And we won't see you now until Wednesday. We're off on Monday. So I hope you enjoy your holiday weekend and enjoy the time with your family, because guess what? It's that time of year. And with that, I will say Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho. Bah humbug.
Don't say bah humbug. You know better than that. Merry Christmas, everybody. And remember, even though it's Christmas, stay angry.
That's right. Have a safe and healthy holiday.